Don't ask Claire about work. She'll explain forms until dessert gets cold. Daniel said it while I was pulling the chicken from the oven, like my life was a punchline he had polished on the drive home. Before you judge what I did next, stay with the last receipt, because the woman he called useless was the name his whole workplace was about to fear. The kitchen smelled like rosemary, lemon, and burned garlic because my hand slipped when he laughed. Rachel Stone laughed too, but hers came out thin. Andrew Miller, the man beside her, smiled like he did not know where to place his face. I set the baking tray down and felt heat sting through the towel. That's funny, I said. Daniel leaned against the counter in his blue work shirt, the one I ironed that morning because his big quarterly meeting had made him nervous. See, he said. She knows I'm joking. Rachel lifted her wine glass. Daniel told us you do a little freelance admin work. That's nice, honestly. Flexible. I looked at her. Is that what he told you? Daniel's jaw moved before his smile did. Claire, don't do that. Do what? Make a normal dinner weird. Andrew cleared his throat. We don't have to talk about work. Daniel pointed at him like he had won something. Exactly. Some of us talk about risk systems all day. Claire gets enough excitement from color-coded folders. Rachel looked at me again, softer now. Daniel is under brutal pressure right now. The Harrington Avery audit has everyone tense. I'm sure he doesn't mean it harshly. I picked up the serving spoon. The metal felt cold even though the kitchen was warm. My color-coded folders paid for the laptop he used to build last month's executive deck. Daniel's smile froze. Rachel lowered her glass. Andrew blinked. Daniel chuckled, but there was a warning tucked inside it. Here we go. No, I said. Here we don't go. You brought them home without telling me. You mocked me in my kitchen. Now you want me to smile over mashed potatoes. Claire, he said quietly, people are guests. Yes. That's why I'm still being polite. He walked closer and took the bowl from my hand. His fingers brushed mine too hard. You're tired, he said. You had a long day doing invoices or whatever. Sit down. There it was. Fake care. The kind that looked gentle from across the room and felt like a hand on the back of your neck if you were close enough. Rachel gave me an apologetic smile. I get emotional after long days too. I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny. Because I had spent 9 hours on a compliance remediation call with a healthcare client in Boston, then rewrote an internal whistleblower intake protocol before making dinner for a man who had just told his coworkers I did invoices. My day was long, I said. But not because of invoices. Daniel placed the bowl on the island. Claire runs a little home office, he said. She's very proud of it. A little home office. My throat tightened. 3 years earlier, when I left my corporate job after refusing to bury a safety report, I built Bennett Risk Compliance at that same kitchen table. Daniel had watched me cry over the first rejected proposal. He had watched me land my first client. He had watched me pay off the credit card debt he said was our burden but used like it was mine alone. And now my whole career was a little home office. Andrew shifted his weight. Bennett Risk? Wait. Bennett Risk Compliance? Daniel's head turned fast. I saw it. One small crack. Rachel looked between us. You know the firm? Andrew frowned. I've seen that name in vendor notes. Maybe not ours, but industry circles. They do control frameworks, right? I looked at Daniel. He stared back like he was begging and threatening me at the same time. Yes, I said. That's my firm. Rachel's smile faded. Daniel laughed too loudly. She says firm like there's a skyscraper. My office has 4 contractors, 2 retained clients, and 1 husband who apparently tells people I play with spreadsheets. Don't be dramatic. My job paid half the mortgage when your bonus got delayed. Daniel's face darkened. Rachel whispered, Daniel, you said she was between things. I turned to her. Between what? Rachel's cheeks colored. I didn't mean anything. No, please. I want to hear it. Daniel put both hands on the counter. Enough. The word landed heavy. For a second, the only sound was the oven fan humming behind me. My heartbeat tapped at my ribs. I was not scared of Daniel yelling. I was scared of how easily everyone accepted the smaller version of me. Rachel set her glass down. Maybe we should go. No, Daniel said. Dinner is ready. Andrew reached for his coat. I think we came at a bad time. Daniel turned on him. Nobody came at a bad time. My wife is just sensitive when people joke. I wiped my palms on my apron. The cotton felt rough against my skin. Say it again, I said. Daniel narrowed his eyes. Say what? What you said when you walked in. He gave me a small, careful smile. I don't remember. I do. I slid my phone from the shelf beside the spice jars and tapped the screen under the towel. Voice memo. The red line began moving. Daniel did not notice. Rachel did. Her eyes dropped to my hand, then back to my face. She said nothing. Daniel picked up the carving knife and pointed it toward the chicken, not me, but the gesture still made Andrew step back. Claire, Daniel said, you are turning a harmless joke into a courtroom scene. My work lives in courtroom scenes when people lie on paper. He set the knife down. Rachel swallowed. Daniel, maybe apologize. He looked at her like she had switched teams too early. For what? For making it sound like she doesn't work. Daniel scoffed. Rachel, don't get pulled into this. Claire has this thing where she needs credit for every little contribution. Every little contribution? I asked. He looked at me. Too long. Too cold. Then he smiled at his coworkers. She helped me organize some notes once, and now she thinks she understands my field. The room changed. Not because he insulted me again. Because he had said too much. Andrew's eyes sharpened. What notes? Daniel waved him off. Nothing. Marriage stuff. You know how it is. No, I said. Tell him. Claire. Tell Andrew what notes I helped with. Rachel whispered, Daniel? He grabbed his wineglass and drank like he needed time. I remembered the late nights. Daniel at the table, panicked, asking what control ownership meant. Daniel asking me to explain escalation mapping. Daniel forwarding me messy drafts from his work email and saying, can you make this sound executive? I had thought I was helping my husband. I had not known I was disappearing myself. My phone buzzed once under the towel. The voice memo was still recording. I turned toward the sink, opened my messages, and took screenshots of the texts he had sent last month. Can you clean this section before my meeting? Use your Bennett template, but take your logo off. Don't mention you helped. They get weird about outside input. My hands were steady now. That surprised me. Daniel's were not. What are you doing? He asked. Saving the joke. His voice dropped. Put the phone down. Rachel stepped between the island and the door. Daniel, stop. He blinked at her. Excuse me? You're making this worse. Andrew nodded slowly. You told us she didn't really work. That's not what this sounds like. Daniel laughed again, but this time it had no air in it. You two don't know my wife. I looked at him. No, Daniel. They're finally meeting me. He leaned close enough for me to smell the expensive mint gum he chewed before office events. You want to embarrass me? He whispered. I kept my voice calm. You did that when you needed my brain and mocked my name. His eyes flicked to the phone. Then to Rachel. Then to Andrew. For the first time that night, Daniel looked less like a husband and more like a man guarding a locked drawer. Rachel picked up her purse. "Claire," she said softly, "I'm sorry. I didn't know." "Of course you didn't," I said. "He made sure of that." Daniel's face tightened. "Don't poison people against me in my own house." I untied my apron. The knot resisted for a second, then loosened. "This is our house." He looked at the table, the food, the guests, the life he had staged around me. I saw him understand that something had shifted. Not enough to ruin him. Not yet. But enough to make him afraid of what I could prove. Andrew opened the front door. Cold evening air slipped into the hallway and carried the scent of rain inside. Rachel paused before leaving. "Bennett Risk and Compliance," she said carefully. "That's really you?" I met Daniel's eyes when I answered. Yes. Daniel's workplace had learned my name at my dinner table. By morning, I was going to learn what he had done with it. The next evening, Daniel stood in front of our bedroom mirror adjusting his tie like nothing had cracked between us. "You're coming tonight," he said. I looked up from my laptop. "I thought your office events were for people with real jobs." His fingers stopped at the knot. "That was dinner talk." "No. That was public talk that finally had witnesses." He turned, wearing the smile he used when he wanted peace without accountability. "Claire, please. It's a company family night. The audit team will be there. I need things to look normal." "Normal for who?" "For us." I closed my laptop slowly. The soft click sounded louder than it should have. Daniel watched my face. "I told Rachel you were tired," he said. "She understands." "Did you also tell her I imagined the part where you called my career a little home office?" He sighed. "Don't go there tonight." That was not an apology. That was a leash. I wore a black dress, low heels, and the pearl earrings my father gave me before he died. He used to say, "Never walk into a room hoping they approve of you. Walk in knowing whether you approve of them." I had forgotten that for too long. At Harrington Avery Group, the lobby was all glass, steel, and expensive silence. Then the elevator opened to the event floor, and silence turned into music, clinking glasses, and voices trying to sound relaxed under pressure. Bright lights washed the room in white and gold. People laughed too loudly. People smiled too quickly. That kind of room made cruelty easy to miss because everyone was already performing. Daniel placed his hand at the small of my back. I moved 1 inch forward. His hand fell away. "Claire," he whispered. "Careful," I said. "People are guests." His jaw flexed. Rachel spotted us near a table of name tags. Her smile appeared first, then faded into caution. "Hi, Claire." "Rachel." She looked at Daniel. "Everything okay?" Daniel answered before I could. "Perfect. Claire just gets nervous around corporate crowds." I felt the words brush over my skin like dust. Rachel gave me a small sympathetic look. "These nights can be overwhelming." I smiled at her. "I handle executive interviews, regulatory deadlines, and board remediation plans. I can survive a cheese table." Rachel blinked. Daniel laughed softly. "See? She's sharp tonight." Sharp is what people call women when honest makes them uncomfortable. Rachel looked down at her drink. Daniel leaned closer to her. "She doesn't mean it that way." "I do," I said. A man in a charcoal suit approached with 2 drinks in his hands. "Daniel Hayes," he said. "Man of the hour." Daniel's face brightened with relief. "Martin. Good to see you." Martin Cole shook his hand, then looked at me. "And this must be your wife." Daniel answered. "This is Claire. She does some admin consulting from home." There it was again. Not unemployed this time. Not little home office. Now it was admin consulting. A softer burial. I held out my hand. Claire Bennett. Martin shook it. His brow moved slightly at my last name, but not enough to stay there. Nice to meet you, Claire. Daniel squeezed my elbow. Too gentle for anyone else to notice. Too firm for me to miss. We should find our table, he said. But then I saw it. Across the room, near the presentation screens, a tall display board stood under a spotlight. Hayes Risk Integrity Framework. My mouth went dry. Under the title were 5 pillars. Clear ownership. Escalation pathway. Evidence preservation. Retaliation shield. Board-facing audit trail. My phrases. My structure. My sequence. I had built that model after losing my first corporate role for reporting unsafe practices and watching leadership pretend the problem was my tone, not their cover-up. That framework was not just work. It was the scar I turned into a business. Daniel followed my gaze. His hand tightened around his glass. Don't, he said. I could barely hear him over the music, but I heard the fear beneath it. Daniel. It's not what you think. I walked toward the board. He stepped with me. Claire, this is not the place. It seems like the exact place. Rachel followed a few feet behind us. Martin turned too. Daniel moved in front of the display, smiling at anyone watching. My wife loves this stuff, he said. She gets excited when she sees risk language. I looked past his shoulder at the second panel. I knew the sentence before my eyes finished reading it. A reporting system fails the moment fear becomes more efficient than truth. I wrote that sentence in a draft called Bennett_control_framework_V3. At 2:15 in the morning. With coffee gone cold beside me. With Daniel asleep upstairs. I took out my phone. Daniel's smile slipped. What are you doing? Admiring your work. I took one photo. Then another. Daniel kept his voice smooth. Claire, stop taking pictures of internal materials. Internal to who? Martin stepped closer. Is there a concern? Daniel turned quickly. No concern. Claire sometimes thinks familiar industry language means. That sentence is mine, I said. Rachel's face changed. Daniel laughed, but it came out flat. That's ridiculous. I opened my email and searched one word. Retaliation shield. The draft appeared. Sent to Daniel Hayes. 7 months earlier. Subject line, cleaned framework language, remove my branding before you adapt. My stomach twisted at my own words. Remove my branding. I had given him a door. He had built a theft through it. I forwarded the email to my business account. Then I sent it to a secure archive folder. Daniel looked at my screen. Claire. You told me they had weird outside input rules. They do. So why is my input standing under a spotlight with your name on it? Rachel whispered, Daniel, what is she talking about? He turned to her with that careful, injured expression. Rachel, please. This is exactly what I warned you about. She gets emotional around career topics. I felt something inside me go still. Not numb. Still. The kind of still that comes before a locked door opens from the inside. You warned her? Daniel lowered his voice. I protected you. From what? From people judging you. I almost smiled. Daniel, you told your coworkers I was too fragile to be named, then used my work to look brilliant. Martin's expression sharpened. Daniel, did an outside consultant contribute to this framework? No, Daniel said. One word. Fast. Clean. A lie with a pressed collar. Rachel looked at me. Claire, maybe there's overlap. These concepts are common in compliance. I nodded. Some concepts are common. I pointed to the third pillar. That phrase is not. Daniel said, "You're embarrassing yourself in front of people who matter." I looked at him. No, Daniel. I'm finally standing in front of people who need to know. Rachel's mouth parted. Martin looked at the board again. Then at Daniel. Then at me. Do you have documentation? Daniel cut in. Martin, don't entertain this. I asked Claire. Daniel's eyes went cold. I opened the file on my phone. The original draft loaded slowly because the room's Wi-Fi was crowded. That tiny spinning circle felt like a lifetime. My fingers were cold now. My pearls felt heavy against my neck. For one awful second, I feared the file would not open. I feared every woman's nightmare in rooms like that. Being right, but not provable fast enough. Then the document appeared. My name in the footer. Bennett Risk and Compliance. The same 5 pillars. The same sequence. The same sentence. Martin took the phone. Rachel stepped closer. Daniel said, "That was a personal draft." I looked at him. "You just said no outside consultant contributed." His face tightened. Martin handed the phone back. "Daniel, we'll discuss this after the event." Daniel's voice dropped. "There's nothing to discuss." Rachel looked at him, and for the first time, she did not defend him. "Why didn't you tell us she was Bennett?" Daniel stared at her. "Because it wasn't relevant." I took one more photo of the display. Then I opened my notes app and created a new entry. Harrington Avery event. Presentation board displayed under Daniel Hayes' name. Original Bennett draft shown to Martin Cole and Rachel Stone. Daniel denied outside contribution. I saved it. Daniel watched me save every word. His workplace had not learned everything yet. But they had learned enough to stop laughing. Daniel did not speak on the ride home. That was worse than yelling. The car smelled like leather, rain, and the coffee he had spilled that morning but never cleaned. The wipers dragged across the windshield in slow, angry strokes. I watched streetlights slide across his face. Every few seconds, his jaw tightened. "You enjoyed that," he finally said. I looked out the window. Enjoyed what? Watching Martin look at me like I was some kind of fraud. "You lied in front of him." "I protected my job. With my work." He laughed once, sharp and empty. "Your work. There it is again." I turned toward him. "Yes, Daniel. My work. The thing you mocked at dinner and displayed under your name the next night." He hit the turn signal too hard. "You have no idea what corporate pressure feels like." I stared at him. I had a corporate job before I had a husband who needed my language to sound competent. His hands tightened around the wheel. "That job you lost?" My stomach dropped. He knew exactly where to press. "You mean the job I left after reporting unsafe practices?" "No," he said. "I mean the job where you couldn't handle politics and walked out acting righteous." The words moved through me slowly. Not like a slap. Like cold water filling a room. I remembered that old office. The fluorescent lights. The locked conference room. The director leaning across the table and saying, "Claire, the report is accurate, but your delivery has made people uncomfortable." I remembered carrying a cardboard box to my car with one framed photo, one mug, and one plant that died 2 weeks later. I remembered Daniel holding me that night. I remembered believing him when he said, "They didn't deserve you." Now he was using that wound like he had been saving it. "You comforted me when that happened," I said. "I comforted a version of it," he said. Then I learned the real pattern. "What pattern?" "You turn every workplace into a moral courtroom. Then you blame everyone when they get tired of you." I swallowed. The seatbelt pressed across my chest. For a moment, I could not find my voice. Daniel glanced at me. There was satisfaction in his eyes. He had wanted silence. He had almost earned it. Then I said, "You don't get to rewrite the night you watched me break." His smile vanished. "I'm not rewriting anything. You are. You're taking the memory where I trusted you and twisting it into evidence against me." He pulled into our driveway. The rain had slowed, but the roof still ticked with water. Inside the house, the kitchen still held a faint smell of rosemary from the night before. It made my stomach turn. Daniel tossed his keys into the bowl by the door. "You need to understand something, Claire." "I understand plenty." "No, you don't. Harrington Avery is not one of your little client calls. These people can ruin reputations." "I know. That's why their risk framework should not be stolen." He turned on me. "You keep saying stolen like you didn't send me the draft." "I sent it to help you understand structure. Not to put your name on it. You told me to remove your branding. I told you to adapt it properly." He smiled, slow and cruel. "There's no such thing as properly in marriage. We share things. We share a mortgage. We share dishes. We do not share authorship." Daniel loosened his tie. "You always needed everything stamped with your name." "No. I needed you to stop erasing it." He walked into the living room and poured himself a drink. The ice cracked in the glass. The sound made my shoulders tighten. He took one sip, then leaned against the bar cart like he was the reasonable one. "I carried this marriage." I stared at him. "You carried it?" "Yes." "When your bonus was delayed, who paid the mortgage?" He lifted the glass. "You love bringing that up. When your department needed those draft policies, who stayed up with you?" "You offered." "When you panicked before your executive presentation, who rewrote the control language?" "Because you wanted to feel important." I laughed then. A small, broken sound. "You really believe that?" "I believe you needed my world because yours was too small." There it was. Not a joke. Not fake care. The real thing. I stood in the doorway with my wet coat still on, and something inside me folded. For 1 minute, I felt the full weight of it. The dinners I cooked while he took credit. The meetings I moved so his schedule came first. The drafts I cleaned because I thought marriage meant helping. The name I built from nothing, treated like a hobby until it became useful. My eyes burned, but I would not give him tears. Not tonight. Daniel watched me carefully. He mistook restraint for weakness. "Don't start crying," he said. "That won't fix the mess you made." I took off my coat and hung it on the chair. "I'm not crying." "Good. I'm documenting." His face changed. "What?" I walked to my office. He followed. "Claire." I turned on the lamp. The room was small, but it was mine. 2 desks. 1 bookcase. 1 framed copy of my first signed client contract. Daniel used to call it cute. I sat down and opened my laptop. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Backing up my files." His voice lowered. "Do not make this bigger. You made it bigger when you lied to Martin." He stepped into the room. "Listen to me. Nobody at my office is going to believe your little notebook over me." I looked up. "Then it's good I kept more than a notebook." I opened my secure drive. Daniel moved closer. I copied the Bennett framework folder. Original drafts. Email trails. Client-safe templates. Metadata screenshots. I watched the upload bar move. Slow. Steady. Daniel's breathing got louder. "You're being paranoid." "No. I'm being late." "Late for what?" "Protecting myself." He set his glass on my desk. Hard. A few drops splashed near my keyboard. "Protecting yourself from your husband?" From a man who used the word husband to make theft sound domestic. His mouth tightened. "You think a lawyer will care?" I clicked another folder. They might. Daniel went still. I forwarded the event photos to my business email. Then I forwarded the dinner voice memo. Then I forwarded the screenshots of his texts. He watched every send confirmation appear. Claire, stop. I did not. He grabbed his phone and typed fast. My laptop pinged. Then my billing dashboard flashed red. Payment failed. My compliance archive subscription. I stared at the notification. Daniel slipped his phone into his pocket. What did you do? He shrugged. You said we don't share things. So I removed my card. I turned slowly. That subscription stores client records. Then use your real job money. The room went very quiet. The kind of quiet where you can hear electricity in the walls. For 1 second, panic climbed up my spine. Client records. Archived drafts. Audit histories. If the subscription locked, my access could delay active work. Daniel saw the fear. He smiled. Subtle. Small. Ugly. You should think carefully before you pick a fight that affects more than your pride. My hands were cold, but they moved. I opened the billing page and added my business debit card. The payment processed. Green check. Then I turned on two-factor recovery. Then I changed the administrator email. Then I exported my archive index. Daniel's smile died piece by piece. You had another card? I own a company, Daniel. He stepped back. I opened my banking app and activated transaction alerts on every shared account. Then I downloaded the last 6 months of statements. Daniel laughed, but there was no confidence left in it. You're acting like I'm dangerous. No, I said. I'm acting like I finally believe your behavior. He walked to the door. This is why people don't take you seriously. You overreact. I clicked print. The printer woke with a mechanical groan. I took screenshots because you mocked me. Another page slid out. I forwarded emails because you denied me. Another page. I changed billing because you tried to block access. Another page. Daniel stared at the growing stack. I picked up my phone and called Nora Wells. She answered on the third ring, voice rough with sleep. Claire? It's late. Are you all right? I looked at Daniel while I answered. No. Daniel whispered, hang up. Nora's tone sharpened. What happened? My husband submitted my Bennett framework under his name at Harrington Avery. I have photos, drafts, emails, and a voice memo. He just canceled the card link to my archive software. Nora was silent for one breath. Then another. Claire, she said carefully, do not argue with him anymore tonight. Daniel rolled his eyes. Wonderful. Now you're calling your mentor like a college freshman. Nora heard him. Is Daniel in the room? Yes. Put me on speaker. I tapped the screen. Nora's voice filled the office. Daniel, this is Nora Wells. I advised Claire when she built Bennett Risk and Compliance. Do not touch her files, accounts, client records, or business subscriptions again. Daniel gave a dry laugh. You don't know anything about my marriage. No, Nora said. But I know retaliation when it starts wearing house slippers. He stared at the phone. I almost smiled. Nora continued, Claire, preserve every file. Do not delete anything. Do not edit anything. Export copies. Send the timeline to counsel in the morning. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Counsel? I said, you asked if a lawyer would care. Nora said, a lawyer will care more if there's forged permission. My fingers stopped. Daniel's face changed too fast. Nora caught it through the silence. Claire, she said. Search your sent folder for authorization language. Any words like permission, marital, shared, adapt, or approval. Daniel took one step toward me. Don't. I typed. Permission. A thread appeared. My name was in it. But I had not written the message. I opened it. The email was from Daniel to his department director, forwarded beneath a line that made my skin go cold. Claire has approved my use of her informal notes as internal Harrington Avery material. No external attribution needed, as this was marital support, not vendor work. Below it was a pasted line from me. Remove my branding before you adapt. My breath left me. Not because he had stolen my work. Because he had built a fake permission slip from my trust. Nora said, "Claire?" I read it aloud. Daniel said nothing. That was his confession before any court got one. Nora's voice turned steady and low. Save it. Full headers. PDF copy. Screenshot. Forward to yourself. Daniel reached for my laptop. I stood up so fast the chair hit the wall. Don't touch it. He froze. The old me would have apologized for the noise. The old me would have softened my tone. The old me would have protected his comfort before my own safety. That woman had been useful to him. She was gone. Daniel stared at me like he was seeing the cost of underestimating someone. I saved the email. I downloaded the headers. I printed the thread. I forwarded it to Nora. Then I created one final note. Daniel forged consent language using my email. Nora said, "Claire, listen to me. Tonight is no longer about proving you are hurt. Tonight is about proving what happened." I looked at the printed pages on my desk. The paper was still warm from the machine. My throat tightened again, but this time the feeling did not break me. It hardened into shape. Daniel stood in the doorway, pale and furious. "You're going to destroy both of us." I picked up the stack of receipts. "No, Daniel." I held them against my chest. "You confused my silence with permission." The next morning, I woke before the alarm. The house was gray and quiet, with rainwater still clinging to the bedroom window. Daniel's side of the bed was empty, but the dent in the pillow was still there. For 1 second, I missed the man I thought he was. That was the worst part. Not the theft. Not the insults. The grief for a version of him that had never fully existed. Then my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Nora's name lit the screen. "Claire," she said, "check your business inbox." My hand tightened around the phone. Why? Because Harrington Avery's board counsel sent Bennett Risk and Compliance a sealed request for independent audit support. I sat up. The sheet slipped cold against my legs. Harrington Avery? Yes. Daniel's company? Yes. My throat went dry. They know? They know enough to ask for a clean review. It came through your firm name, not Daniel. I opened my laptop with one hand and my inbox with the other. There it was. Independent Compliance Review Request. Recipient, Claire Bennett, Bennett Risk and Compliance. Not Mrs. Hayes. Not Daniel's wife. Claire Bennett. For a moment, I could not breathe. Nora stayed quiet. I opened the attachment. The request was narrow, formal, and careful. Harrington Avery wanted preliminary review of framework authorship, control documentation, and possible external contribution discrepancies. Possible external contribution discrepancies. That was corporate language for someone lied and legal was nervous. I read the final line twice. All disclosures of personal, professional, or financial conflicts must be submitted before acceptance. Daniel appeared in the doorway wearing his white shirt and half-tied tie. His eyes went to the screen. What is that? I closed nothing. A request from Harrington Avery. His face drained. No. Yes. They can't hire you. They haven't hired me. They requested disclosure first. He walked into the room. You're my wife. That's one disclosure. You're conflicted. That's another disclosure. He pointed at the laptop. Then decline. I looked up at him. Why? Because you can't audit my department. That's why I disclose it before you can weaponize it. His mouth opened, then closed. For the first time since dinner, he had no ready insult. I stood and carried the laptop to my office. Daniel followed me down the hall. Claire, listen. No. You are angry. You are not thinking. I am thinking in timestamps, headers, records, and conflicts. That is the problem for you. He grabbed the doorframe. If you take this, everyone will think you planned it. Then I'll give them the timeline. I sat at my desk and began the disclosure letter. Marriage to Daniel Hayes. Prior unpaid informal assistance. Framework authorship dispute. Preserved communications. Potential retaliation attempt involving business subscription payment. Daniel read over my shoulder. You're making me sound criminal. I'm making you sound documented. His jaw twitched. You don't know how Harrington Avery works. I kept typing. I know how pressure works. The office smelled faintly of printer toner and old coffee. The desk lamp hummed softly beside my hand. I remembered my first lost job again. The meeting room. The polite voices. The way they made truth sound like attitude. For one ugly second, fear came back. What if Harrington Avery did the same thing? What if they looked at Daniel in his polished tie and looked at me in my small office and decided I was the problem because I was inconvenient? My fingers stopped. Daniel saw it. His voice softened. Claire. I hated that softness most. Baby, don't do this to yourself. These people will eat you alive. I know them. I looked at his face. There was fake concern again, but polished differently now. Not public. Private. Almost tender. You're scared, he said. I get it. No, I said quietly. You're hoping I am. His eyes hardened. I kept typing. I attached the photos from the event. The dinner voice memo. The original Bennett draft. The forged permission email with headers. The billing alert screenshot. Then I wrote one final paragraph. I am willing to assist only under direct legal oversight, with scope limited to documentary review and chain of custody analysis. I will not conduct interviews involving my spouse without counsel present. Daniel stared at the screen. You think that sounds professional? It is professional. It sounds like a trap. It is a boundary. I sent it. The whoosh of the email leaving felt small. The silence after it felt enormous. Daniel backed away. You just ended our marriage over a work credit argument. I turned my chair toward him. No. You endangered our marriage when you stole from my business, lied about my mind, and tried to block my records. He laughed under his breath. There you go. Courtroom Claire. Better than counterfeit Daniel. He flinched. Then his phone rang. He looked at the screen and stepped into the hallway. Martin, he said, suddenly warm. I was about to call you. I stood slowly. His voice lowered, but the house carried sound. No, she's emotional. I tried to tell you. Claire has a history with corporate environments. I walked to the door. Daniel saw me and turned away. She'll make this personal, he said. That's what she does. I took out my phone and opened a new note. Daniel call with Martin. Claims emotional history. Attempts to frame audit as personal. Daniel ended the call and turned back. You're spying now? I'm preserving. You're obsessed. I'm awake. He stepped close. Martin knows you're unstable. I held up my phone. Then Martin can compare that with my disclosure letter. Daniel's nostrils flared. You think receipts make you untouchable? I looked at him. When someone rewrites your name out of your own work, keep the receipts before you chase justice. He stared like he hated how calm I sounded. My inbox pinged. I opened it. Response from Harrington Avery Legal. Thank you for the timely disclosure. Your conflict statement has been received and preserved. Pending review, please do not communicate directly with Daniel Hayes regarding audit matters. I read it aloud. Daniel's face changed. What does pending review mean? It means they're reading. Another email arrived. This one from Martin Cole. Claire, legal has asked me not to discuss substance directly. For what it is worth, I was unaware of the extent of your prior involvement. I should not have accepted Daniel's explanation so quickly. I sat very still. Daniel said, "What?" Martin is becoming careful. Daniel reached for my phone. I pulled it back. No. His voice sharpened. Claire. No. We stood there in the hallway, between our bedroom and my office, between wife and witness. Then his phone buzzed again. He read it. His face went pale with anger. What now? I asked. He did not answer. So I checked my inbox. Legal had copied me on a short notice. Daniel Hayes has submitted a conflict complaint requesting removal of Bennett Risk and Compliance from preliminary review. I looked at him. That was fast. He tucked his phone away. You shouldn't be involved. I disclosed involvement. You're biased. You're exposed. His eyes went cold. You don't understand what I can still say. That was the first real threat without a costume. No joke. No care. No rewritten history. Just pressure. Before I could answer, another email landed from Harrington Avery Legal. Subject, preservation notice. My pulse thudded once. All employees connected to the Hayes Risk Integrity Framework are instructed to preserve files, drafts, communications, and metadata. Deletion or alteration may result in disciplinary action. Daniel read over my shoulder. For the first time, he looked afraid of his own workplace. Not because they hated him. Because they had procedures he could not charm. Then Nora texted me. Do not respond emotionally. Let process do what rage cannot. I typed back. Understood. Daniel whispered, you went too far. I looked at the preservation notice. Then at the man who thought my name was safe to steal because I loved him. No, I said. This is the first time I went far enough. Daniel did not come home until after midnight. I heard his car first. Then the garage door. Then the long pause before his key entered the lock. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, the preservation notice printed beside my coffee cup. The coffee had gone cold hours ago, but I kept lifting it anyway because my hands needed something to do. Daniel walked in without taking off his coat. His tie was gone. His face looked calm. That scared me more than his anger. You're still awake, he said. You expected me to sleep? I expected you to think. I did. He glanced at the printed notice. And Harrington Avery Legal has my disclosure, my evidence index, and a conflict statement. He smiled softly. Not kindly. Softly. That's not thinking, Claire. That's escalating. I closed the laptop halfway. No. Escalating was you submitting a conflict complaint after stealing my work. He walked to the fridge, opened it, looked inside, and closed it without taking anything. You keep using ugly words. You keep earning them. His smile thinned. He pulled out the chair across from me and sat down. For a second, we looked like a married couple about to discuss bills. That almost broke me. I remembered sitting at that table 3 years ago, showing him my first signed contract. He had kissed my forehead and said, I always knew you'd build something. Now he looked at that same table like it was an interrogation room. Think carefully before you make my company choose between us, he said. They won't be choosing between us. He leaned back. They already are. No. They'll be choosing between evidence and fraud. His eyes flicked to the folder. You really like that word. I like accurate words. You know what else is accurate? He asked. Divorce. The word landed colder than I expected. My fingers tightened around the mug. Daniel noticed. Of course he noticed. Half the house, he said. Half the accounts. Legal fees. Reputation. Clients asking questions. People wondering why Bennett Risk and Compliance is tangled in a domestic fight. This is not domestic. It will be when I'm done explaining it. My stomach pulled tight. There it was. Not a raised voice. Not a joke. A threat dressed as strategy. I set the mug down slowly. The ceramic clicked against the table. You're going to paint me as a bitter wife. I'm going to tell the truth. No, I said. You're going to tell the version where your theft becomes my mood. He smiled. You just proved my point. I looked at him, and for 1 weak second, I wanted to ask why. Why did he need to hurt me like this? Why did my name offend him so much? Why was my work acceptable only when it made him look taller? But questions like that begged for a man who could still answer honestly. Daniel was gone from that room. Maybe he had been gone longer than I knew. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Daniel looked at it. Popular tonight. I turned the phone over. He stood. Don't ignore what I said. I heard you. Then hear this too. If you continue, I will make sure every client knows you brought marital drama into a corporate review. I looked at the phone again. It buzzed a second time. Unknown number. Daniel's jaw tightened. Answer it. No. He laughed. Now you don't want witnesses? I don't take orders from you. His face hardened. You did for years. The room went silent. The refrigerator hummed behind him. Rainwater dripped from his coat onto the floor, one slow drop at a time. I looked at the puddle. Then at him. No, Daniel. I trusted you for years. There is a difference. He picked up his keys. You're going to regret humiliating me. You were humiliated by the truth. He moved toward the stairs, then stopped. You think Martin is on your side? I think Martin is on legal's side. Martin wants clean headlines and quiet problems. You are not quiet. I stood. No. Not anymore. Daniel stared at me. Then he walked upstairs. I waited until I heard the bedroom door close. Only then did I answer the third call. Hello? A woman whispered, Claire? Yes. It's Rachel. I went still. Her voice trembled. I'm sorry for calling this late. I didn't want to text from my work phone. I opened my laptop again. Rachel, are you okay? No. The word was small. Honest. I heard traffic in the background, then a car door closing. I'm outside a gas station, she said. I needed somewhere with light. What happened? Rachel breathed in shakily. Daniel asked me to clean the file history. My pulse slowed. Not because it was less serious. Because my body understood the shape of the moment. What exactly did he ask? He told me to move older drafts into a personal archive and rename the framework files so it looked like his version started earlier. Did you do it? There was a long pause. I started to. My throat tightened. Rachel. I know. I know. He said legal was overreacting. He said you were trying to ruin him because of marriage problems. He said if I helped, he'd make sure Martin knew I was loyal. Loyal. I was scared. I closed my eyes. The lamp made a warm circle on the table, but my skin felt cold. What changed? Rachel's voice cracked. I opened one of the files. Your name was in the document properties. Bennett Risk and Compliance. Then I found a comment thread where Daniel wrote, Claire's wording is stronger. Use that. I sat down again. Did you save it? Yes. Rachel, listen carefully. Do not send anything to me if legal instructed employees to preserve material. Send it to Harrington Avery Legal through your internal channel. Mention the preservation notice. I don't want to lose my job. I know. He'll say I helped. Did you? Another pause. Yes. That single word carried more weight than all Daniel's speeches. Rachel was not defending him now. She was standing in the dirt with the shovel in her hand. Then tell the truth before he makes you the wall he hides behind. She started crying quietly. I thought he was just ambitious. I thought he was my husband. Rachel went silent. Then she said, he told us your name was a distraction. I looked toward the stairs. My name was the source. I'm going to legal in the morning, she said. Good. Claire? Yes? He's not just scared of the framework. I leaned forward. What do you mean? Rachel lowered her voice. The director role. It's not official yet, but Martin was considering him for director of risk integrity. That framework was his proof he could build a department-wide system. I stared at the printed notice. The pieces moved into place. The mocking. The hiding. The stolen board. The fake permission. The conflict complaint. Daniel had not stolen my work for one presentation. He had stolen it for a future. A title. A salary. A door he could not open without my name. He needed it for the promotion, I said. Yes, Rachel whispered. And if legal confirms the framework isn't his, he doesn't just lose credit. He loses the role. A floorboard creaked upstairs. I looked toward the ceiling. Rachel, send everything to legal. Not me. Do it tonight if you can. I will. And Rachel? Yes? Do not call him before you do. She exhaled, broken and relieved. I won't. The call ended. I sat alone in the kitchen while the house settled around me. The folder was beside my hand. Not a weapon. A shield. I touched the edge of the paper and felt the smallest cut from one sharp corner. A thin red line appeared on my fingertip. I watched it for a second. Then I wrapped it in a napkin and opened a new note. Rachel Stone call. Daniel requested file history cleanup. Director promotion motive. Potential witness. I saved it. Then I emailed Nora. She replied within 2 minutes. Do nothing impulsive. Let Rachel go first. Calm is your advantage. I read that twice. Calm is your advantage. The next morning, Daniel came downstairs in a gray suit and a fresh shirt. He looked at me like he expected wreckage. Instead, I was dressed for work. My hair was pinned back. My laptop bag was by the door. The folder was in my hand. He slowed. Where are you going? To my office. You mean the little one upstairs? No. My actual office. The one with my name on the lease. His face tightened. You think you're powerful because one coworker got nervous? I met his eyes. I think you're nervous because one coworker got honest. He stepped closer. You spoke to Rachel. I received information. You're interfering with my workplace. No. Your workplace is discovering what you interfered with. His phone rang. He checked it. Rachel. He did not answer. It rang again. Then stopped. A message appeared on his screen. I could not read it, but I saw his face change. Not anger. Fear. He looked at me. What did you tell her? The same thing I'm telling you. I lifted the folder. The truth does not belong to whoever shouts first. His phone buzzed again. This time, an email. Daniel opened it. His shoulders dropped half an inch. I knew before he spoke. Legal had heard from Rachel. He looked up slowly. You have no idea what you've done. I opened the front door. Morning air moved into the house, cool and clean. Yes, I do. I stepped outside. For the first time, I didn't protect the man who was destroying me. The boardroom at Harrington Avery looked colder than it was. Glass walls. White table. Black chairs. No flowers, no coffee tray, no friendly noise to soften what was about to happen. I sat at one end with my folder in front of me and my laptop closed. My consultant badge read Claire Bennett in clean black letters. Not Claire Hayes. Not Daniel's wife. Claire Bennett. Daniel sat 3 seats away in a navy suit, staring at the badge like it had personally betrayed him. Martin Cole sat across from us with a legal pad and no smile. Rachel Stone sat beside HR, hands folded so tightly her knuckles had gone pale. A woman from legal introduced herself as Grace Whitman. Her voice was calm enough to make the room feel even sharper. This meeting is limited to authorship, documentation integrity, and possible retaliation connected to the Hayes Risk Integrity Framework. Daniel leaned back. I still object to Claire being here. Grace looked at him. Your objection is noted. It's not just an objection. She is my wife. I kept my hands flat on the folder. Grace turned one page. Ms. Bennett disclosed that relationship before accepting any preliminary review request. Daniel's jaw tightened. That doesn't remove bias. No, Grace said. It allows us to evaluate it. Martin glanced at me. 2 nights earlier, he had looked at me like I was an interruption. Now he looked like a man trying not to miss another truth. Grace folded her hands. Ms. Bennett, you may begin with the evidence index. My heartbeat was loud at first. Not wild. Just present. The room smelled faintly of dry paper and lemon cleaner. The air vent above me pushed cold air across my wrists. For 1 second, I remembered the old conference room from my first corporate job. The polite faces. The soft execution. The way people asked for truth, then punished the person who carried it in. My throat tightened. Then I looked at my badge again. Claire Bennett. I opened the folder. The original framework was created by Bennett Risk and Compliance under the working title Bennett Control Framework version 3. Daniel exhaled sharply. I did not look at him. It was drafted 7 months before the Harrington Avery presentation. It contains the same 5-pillar sequence shown at the company event: clear ownership, escalation pathway, evidence preservation, retaliation shield, and board-facing audit trail. Grace nodded. Please continue. I connected my laptop to the screen. The first document appeared. The footer read Bennett Risk and Compliance. Rachel looked down. Martin's pen stopped moving. I said, the sentence that first raised concern was this. I highlighted the line. A reporting system fails the moment fear becomes more efficient than truth. Daniel shifted in his chair. Grace said, for the record, Mr. Hayes, is that sentence present in the framework displayed under your name? Daniel's voice was tight. Similar language is common. I clicked to the next slide. A photo from the event filled the screen. The same sentence. The same 5 pillars. The same order. Martin stared at it. Grace turned to Daniel again. Is that your answer? Daniel looked at the screen. It was adapted. From what? He said nothing. Rachel's eyes closed for half a second. I clicked again. This is the email thread where Daniel asked me to clean the structure before his meeting. The attachment is the Bennett draft. The timestamp is visible. Full headers were preserved. Grace read from her copy. Daniel Hayes wrote, "Use your Bennett template, but take your logo off." Daniel leaned forward. That was informal marital support. I looked at him then. The room went still. "No," I said. "That was professional work you hid behind marriage." He smiled once, bitter and small. "Convenient." Grace lifted a hand. "Mr. Hayes, you will have a chance to respond." I clicked to the next file. This is the internal email Daniel sent to his director. It states that I approved his use of my informal notes as Harrington Avery material with no external attribution. Martin looked up fast. Rachel whispered, "Oh God." Grace said, "MS. Bennett, did you send approval in those words?" "No." "Did you authorize use without attribution?" "No." "Did Bennett Risk and Compliance have a vendor agreement with Harrington Avery at that time?" "No." Daniel said, "Because there was no vendor work." I opened the metadata report. This is the document properties report from the original draft. Author, Claire Bennett. Organization, Bennett Risk and Compliance. Creation date, 7 months before Daniel's version. Revision history, 34 edits under my business account. Grace turned to the IT compliance manager sitting beside HR. "Can your team verify the metadata source?" He adjusted his glasses. "We reviewed the files this morning. The metadata shown matches the preserved originals." Martin's face changed. Not dramatically. Just enough. Like a door closing behind Daniel. Grace said, "For the record, please state the author listed in the original metadata." The IT manager cleared his throat. "Claire Bennett. Bennett Risk and Compliance." The word sat in the room. Not loud. Not emotional. Just undeniable. Truth does not need to shout when the documents are already speaking. Daniel looked at me. For 1 second, I saw the private man behind the polished one. "Not sorry." Exposed. Grace continued. "MS. Stone, you provided a statement this morning." Rachel's voice was barely steady. "Yes." Daniel turned toward her. "Rachel." Grace's tone sharpened. "Mr. Hayes." Rachel swallowed. "Daniel asked me to move older drafts into a personal archive and rename several files so his framework version would appear earlier." Martin's pen moved again, fast now. Grace asked, "Did you complete that request?" I started. Then I stopped after I saw Claire's name in the properties and a comment from Daniel saying her wording was stronger. Daniel said, "Rachel misunderstood." Rachel shook her head. "No, Daniel. I defended you at dinner. I defended you at the event." Then I saw the files. Her voice broke, but she kept going. "You told me Claire's name was a distraction." "It wasn't. It was the source." Daniel pushed his chair back an inch. The sound cut through the room. Grace looked at him. "Sit still, please." He sat. I opened the final audio file. My fingers hesitated over the trackpad. The voice memo from dinner. My kitchen. My burned garlic. My husband laughing while he made me smaller in front of the people who needed my work. For a second, I hated that they had to hear it. I hated that humiliation had become evidence. Grace noticed my pause. "Ms. Bennett, are you able to proceed?" I breathed in. "Yes." The audio played. Daniel's voice filled the boardroom. "Don't ask Claire about work. She'll explain forms until dessert gets cold." Then my voice. "My color-coded folders paid for the laptop he used to build last month's executive deck." Then Daniel again. "She helped me organize some notes once, and now she thinks she understands my field." No one moved. No one laughed. The recording ended. Daniel's face had lost all color. He gave his one denial like a man throwing a glass at a wall after the house had already burned. This is a marital dispute being dressed up as corporate fraud. Grace closed her folder. No, Mr. Hayes. This is a corporate authorship dispute involving possible intellectual property misuse, false internal representation, document manipulation, and retaliation connected to preserved business records. The room went quiet. Martin looked at Daniel. I asked you directly if an outside consultant contributed. Daniel's lips parted. Nothing came out. Martin's voice lowered. You said no. Daniel said, I was trying to protect the company. Rachel looked at him with tired disbelief. You were trying to protect your promotion. Daniel turned toward her again, but this time he had no line ready. Grace spoke before he could find one. Mr. Hayes, effective immediately, you are suspended pending full investigation. Your access to framework materials, shared department drives, and promotion review files is frozen. HR will provide the written notice before you leave this floor. Daniel stared at her. This is insane. Martin said, the director of risk integrity process is also frozen. Daniel looked at him like that hurt more than the suspension. Martin did not look away. We will not build a department on stolen credibility. I felt the words move through me slowly. Not joy. Not revenge in the way people imagine it. It felt quieter. Cleaner. Like setting down something heavy after carrying it so long I had mistaken the weight for my own body. Daniel turned to me. You were never supposed to bring that here. I met his eyes. You brought it here when you put your name on it. Grace stood. That concludes this portion. Ms. Bennett, legal will contact you regarding next steps and scope boundaries. I closed my laptop. The click was soft. Final. As Daniel stood, an HR representative moved beside him. No crowd gasped. No one shouted. There was no dramatic collapse. Just a man losing access to a room he had entered under a stolen name. Martin waited until Daniel was escorted out before speaking to me. Claire. I looked at him. I should have questioned his explanation sooner. Yes, I said. He nodded once. I will not make that mistake again. Rachel wiped under one eye. I'm sorry, she said. I believed part of her. Not all of her. But enough to know she had stepped out of his shadow when it mattered. I picked up my folder. The paper felt firm against my palm. Not a weapon. Still a shield. At the door, I turned back to the boardroom screen, now dark. For months, Daniel had used my work to make himself look larger. But the moment the lights went out, only one name remained in the official record. Mine. The hallway outside the boardroom felt longer than it had when I entered. Daniel stood near the elevator with HR on one side and security on the other. His badge had been clipped from his jacket and placed inside a clear plastic envelope. He saw me looking at it. Enjoying the show? He asked. His voice was low. Tired. Still cruel. I stopped a few feet away. No. He laughed without smiling. You finally got what you wanted. I wanted my name back. You wanted me punished. I wanted you to stop using marriage as cover. The elevator doors opened behind him. For 1 second, he looked smaller than I expected. Not because he had lost power. Because without my work holding him up, there was not much left to admire. Grace walked past us with Martin, both speaking quietly. Rachel came out last. She looked at Daniel, then at me, then down at the floor. Daniel pointed at her. You'll regret this too. Rachel's face went pale, but she did not step back. No, she said. I regret helping you in the first place. Daniel stared at her like betrayal belonged only to him. HR guided him toward the elevator. He looked at me one last time. You think you're free now? The old me would have answered with a defense. The old me would have explained. The old me would have tried to make him understand the difference between freedom and damage. I held my folder against my side. No, Daniel. The elevator chimed. I know I am. The doors closed between us. The sound was soft. Final. Outside the building, the morning air was cold enough to wake my skin. Cars moved through downtown traffic. Someone laughed near a coffee cart. A bus hissed at the curb. The world did not stop because my marriage had cracked open. That felt unfair for one breath. Then it felt merciful. I sat on a stone bench near the entrance and looked at the consultant badge in my hand. Claire Bennett. The plastic edge pressed into my palm. I remembered the first time Daniel had seen my business cards. He had picked one up, smiled, and said, "Looks official." I had laughed then. I did not understand that he meant it as a ceiling. My phone rang. Helen Hayes. Daniel's mother. I almost ignored it. Then I answered. Claire? Yes. Her voice was careful. Daniel called me. I assumed he would. He said you humiliated him at work. I looked through the glass doors at the lobby where employees moved past like nothing had happened. He humiliated himself with documents. Helen was quiet. For years, she had called Daniel intense. Driven. Misunderstood. She had called his sharpness stress and his control ambition. At family dinners, when he interrupted me, she would pat my hand and say, "He's under pressure, dear." I waited for that version of her. Instead, she breathed out. I received the notice from legal because Daniel listed me as an emergency contact. It says suspension pending investigation. Yes. He told me it was just a marital argument. It wasn't. I know. I closed my eyes. The cold air touched my face, clean and almost painful. Helen's voice cracked slightly. I thought he was just proud and stressed. No, Helen. He was comfortable being cruel because people kept translating it as stress. She did not defend him. That silence meant more than any apology. Finally, she said, I defended the wrong person. I looked at the badge again. I did too. Helen inhaled shakily. What happens now? I file for divorce. Claire. I'm not saying it to hurt you. I know. I'm saying it because I need to hear myself choose it. Her voice lowered. Do you have someone with you? Nora knows. My attorney knows. I'm safe. I am sorry, Helen said. This time, I believed enough of it to accept the words. Thank you. After the call ended, I stayed on the bench a little longer. Not because I had nowhere to go. Because for the first time in years, no one was pulling me toward a role I did not want. Wife who softened him. Woman who understood him. Partner who helped quietly. Professional who stayed nameless. I opened my notes app and typed one sentence. I will never shrink my work again to protect a man's ego. I read it once. Then I saved it. That was my vow. A message arrived before I stood. Harrington Avery Legal. Ms. Bennett, pending formal procurement review, Harrington Avery would like to extend Bennett Risk and Compliance's preliminary engagement for independent documentation assessment. All work will proceed under your firm's name and direct counsel oversight. I read the message twice. No rush of triumph came. No tears. Just a quiet opening in my chest where fear had been sitting. Daniel had dragged my name into his workplace to hide behind it. His workplace sent it back with respect. Rachel stepped outside a few minutes later. She stopped when she saw me. I didn't know if you were still here. I was leaving. She hugged her coat around herself. I gave legal everything. I know. I should have done it sooner. Yes. The honesty made her flinch. Then she nodded. I deserved that. You deserved the truth. So did I. Rachel looked at the doors. He always made it sound like you were difficult. He needed me difficult enough to blame and useful enough to steal. She looked at me then, really looked. I'm sorry, Claire. I stood. Do better next time someone is being erased in front of you. I will. I walked to my car with the folder under my arm and the badge still in my hand. The sky had cleared just enough for pale sunlight to hit the office windows. For years, I thought dignity meant staying calm while someone diminished me. I was wrong. Dignity meant refusing to become cruel while telling the whole truth. Daniel lost his badge that morning. I kept my name. And if someone mocked your work, stole your credit, or tried to erase your name, tell your story below. And remember this on the last receipt: sometimes the person they laugh at is the signature their whole world depends on.